band started when, sort of before the Little Barrie band started, I was playing in bands with friends of mine in Nottingham, in the Midlands in the UK where I grew up. And I was in an instrumental band, and then I started sort of early stages of songwriting really, just because I couldn't find singers to work with. I started trying to write songs and having a go at singing myself, but I started out as a guitarist. And I made some rough demos with friends helping me out, and I made a little CDR demo. My sister's boyfriend at the time played drums, I played guitar and bass on it. It was a 3-track demo. A friend of mine took it down to a guy in London who had a label called Jazzman Records that did a lot of reissues. He had an originals label that was putting out some new music, and he wanted to put 2 of the tracks out as a 45. So I then met a drummer and we moved to London because I was looking to move to London anyway. I just wanted a change. You know, I hadn't travelled much, and I liked being there. So I went down there, and then I met Lewis, our bass player, who I'm still playing with now. So I moved down in 2000. So me and Lewis have been playing together for like 25 years. First album, we made some singles at first. Then we met a Scottish singer-songwriter artist called Edwin Collins who helped us produce our first album. We really liked the sound of his records. He had a cool studio full of old analog gear and stuff, and he helped us make our first record. But Edwin was a real help to us because he helped us make our first album when we didn't have any money. And we went in, we paid him to do a single, and he just said, "Would you like to come and make an album?" And we said, "Yeah, we'd love to, but we don't have any money." And him and his wife were like, "Well, let's just make the record and we'll worry about that later." And Edwin produced our first album, and when we got a deal with it, we paid them back, and that got us rolling, really. So we owe a lot to those people, and also our manager, Richard, who we met at the time. Well, when you're a kid like me who grew up in the 80s in Nottingham, in the middle of the UK, you know, places like Memphis and the records that, when I first heard of records from Memphis, obviously like Elvis records, you know, my musical knowledge wasn't that vast, but any music coming out of the States was just fascinating, especially things that were made before you were born. It's just like another world, really, or it's the source, you know, for everything. So to actually be me, a guy from the Midlands, the other guys in the band, you know, Lewis from Portsmouth, Tony's from just outside of London, but 3 British guys who just got fascinated with music, to then actually be in Memphis, have your records pressed in Memphis, but then to actually come here to see the records coming off the machines, you know, it's stuff you couldn't imagine as a teenager when you first start playing guitar. So it's an honour, really. I mean, you know, this is where it started, and this is what started the bands that got us started. So that came about, we got approached from the music director for the series, Thomas Golubic, who's based out in LA. And it was totally out of the blue for us. He contacted us through our manager, Rich, and he said he was a fan of our band, and you know, and we'd only done small tours, sort of fragments of touring in the US before, so we didn't really feel like we had a chance to make any kind of dent here. It was just very sort of baby steps, really. But he'd heard of us, and he liked our records, and there was one song on our second album called "Why Don't You Do It?" He liked the guitar sound and the style, and he said, "Would you be interested in composing a 20-second theme?" He said, "We just want it 20 seconds long, so we cut it dead, and it goes straight to the first scene of each episode." That was the brief, and he said, "Could you do it a similar BPM to your song, but that kind of guitar style?" And that was the brief. I spoke to him on Skype back then on like a Thursday evening, or Thursday evening for me, Thursday morning, I guess, or afternoon for Tom. And he said, "Yeah, could you give us some variations on it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "Oh, how many do you need?" He said, "Oh, maybe like 17 or something." I said, "Okay." I was like, "Oh, when do you need them?" He said, "Monday." I just went, "Yeah, cool." So we finished the call. Oh no, he also had to say, "So you've seen Breaking Bad, right?" And I had to go, "No." I was like the only person who hadn't seen it. I thought, I can't lie because I'm going to get caught out pretty fast. So he said, "Well, here's what happens." He gave me a sort of 2-minute breakdown of what happens in Breaking Bad, and he said, "And then we're going to make this prequel about Saul Goodman's character." And And he said, yeah, it's, you know, just see what you can come up with. So I'd say, oh, you know, we're going to go out this weekend. I kind of got this thing that might be worth doing. So I just spent the weekend just writing little themes, and then I got together with Virgil, our drummer, and we recorded them all in a day and mixed them all in a day because they were so short. Sent them off to LA. A week later, Thomas came back and said, they're great, can you do another 12? So I did another 12. And you don't think you're going to get picked because you think maybe someone who's more established in that world, you know, doing TV and film composition, someone who's got more of a reputation, more of a legacy, will get it. And, but I couldn't believe it. They picked number 7 of the 29 tunes that they sent us. I couldn't believe it when we picked them. We found out, it was only about 5 weeks before the first episode was aired on like AMC. But it was just incredible. And then when it went out, the show went out, and then when it might have started to be aired a little bit later in the UK. But as soon as it started, we just started getting messages from people like friends, musicians, or just people out the blue. And then people saying, friends just saying, this is you, isn't it? And we were like, yeah. And then it just started to sort of gather momentum. And then, you know, you don't expect to have people playing it in their bedrooms or on guitars or on other instruments all around the world. And then people saying, you know, we had some people say, yeah, it's a popular tune for people to play in a guitar store and stuff. You know, it's always like the smoke on the water thing or whatever. But it's not quite at that level. But still, it was, you know, someone said to me, does it bother you that that's the thing you're best known for? I'm like, not at all, I love it. I think it's great. You know, a great TV series. And it was a new way of working. It was something different that we didn't expect would get chosen. And it's been the best 20 seconds of music. You know, it's been so good for us, that. And it sounds like us, you know, or whatever. So I'm more than happy with it. And it's kind of nice to see people playing it. Something you'd never imagine. Same as being here, having your record press. You never imagine to have people around the world playing your theme. You know, doing their own versions of it and stuff. So it's been fantastic. And out of that, I got other work because I ended up playing on a track on the Elvis movie. I think all those, it was after that you know, these things helped other people find out about us and find out about the records we've made and other people that I've worked with. So it's been, yeah, it's been a blessing, really.